Meeting of the Arts and Culture Commission. Today is Thursday, July 17th, 2025. Madam Recording Secretary, please take roll call.
Commissioner Russell, Commissioner Vu,
Here.
Commissioner Lopez Guerra, Commissioner Hernandez,
Here.
Commissioner Ochoa,
Here.
Commissioner Peña Marin.
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Seeing a quorum, this meeting is officially called to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, members of the public may address the Arts and Culture Commission regarding any non-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the committee. No action may be taken on non-agenda items unless authorized by law. Does the public have any comments they wish to share with the commission? Please know that you have 3 minutes to speak.
We don't have anyone present, but we do receive the one e-comment, and I make copies for each one.
Thank you. We have one presentation. Please note that there will be no motion or action taken on this item. Item number 1 is powers, duties, and responsibilities.
Good evening, commission members. My name is Andrea Garcia Miller, and I'm an assistant city attorney with the city attorney's office. I'm here today with one of our law clerks from Chapman Law School. Her name is Rachel Rosnos, and we will be presenting this training jointly. So thank you for your attention in advance. So we're going to be going over a presentation called the Arts and Culture Commission Powers, Duties, and Responsibilities. It's essentially training on what is called the Brown Act. Next slide, please. So because we come from an attorney's office, we have to give you disclaimers. The following information is provided for commissioner training purposes. The following does not constitute legal advice, and thank you for your cooperation. So we have some training goals. We like to set those out in the beginning to try and meet your expectations. So the first is to highlight the authority and duties of the Arts and Culture Commission. Second is to explain the open and public nature of the meetings, essentially the Brown Act, and discuss meeting procedures, and then strategize on how to implement best practices. So let's start with goal 1, highlight the authority and duties of the Arts and Culture Commission. So the commission shall act as an advisory board to the city manager and city council and make recommendations regarding, including but not limited to, policies, procedures, and plans for the development and improvement of the arts and cultural activities in Santa Ana, coordinating with the private sector and other governmental entities in promoting arts and cultural excellence as tools for the encouragement of economic development, business relocation, and tourism, organizing, promoting activities which help celebrate the city and its unique cultural heritage, allocation and budgeting of funds for arts and cultural funding, payments for the design, execution, and placement of public art projects within the established appropriations for the art projects, encouraging the use of local artists in city public art projects, guidelines for accepting, selecting, purchasing, commissioning, placing, and preserving art projects, and other city art acquisitions, gifts, or extended loans of art. And D, assessing, I hope I'm saying that right, of artwork when necessary. Also advocate for the arts, education, cultural diversity, and other initiatives that further the growth and sustainability of the Arts and Cultural Commission in Santa Ana. and have the powers and duties as may be appropriate in carrying out the purpose and goals of this division as set forth in reports or recommendations adopted by the city council, and consider matters referred to it by the city manager or city council. So all these powers are contained within our Santa Ana Municipal Code. Also, the commission shall consist of 7 members. Members should be persons concerned about the arts and cultural issues in the city and have professional and/or substantial volunteer involvement in the following: visual, performing, or literary arts, architecture, design, or urban planning, education, history, science, film, or arts and cultural institution. Commissioners shall be subject to the appointment and removal and shall serve terms in accordance with Section 326 of the code, which states members shall serve for a term of 4 years and until their respective successors are appointed or qualified. There are a maximum of 3 consecutive terms of 4 years each. And then 1 seat shall be citywide seat having a 2-year term, which coincides with the mayor. And that's limited to 4 consecutive terms. So let's take a look at the bylaws really quickly. It's divided into 4 categories. You have the commission, Article 1, Article 2 is elections, Article 3 are meetings, and Article 4, conduct of public hearings. I'm sure you all have a copy of the bylaws, so I would encourage you to read those and reach out to us if you have any questions. So Arts and Culture Commission commissioners are public officials. While you remain an individual with associated rights, you are a public official representing the city of Santa Ana and not necessarily your own personal views. So some practical advice. When should you approach staff? Who do you ask and when? It's helpful if you provide questions to staff prior to a meeting. And remember, all members have equal rights, so everybody has access to staff. And give others the opportunity to speak and do not lecture. Refrain from side discussions with fellow commissioners, especially about city business. So what's the commission's relationship with staff? City staff may work with the commission, but they are accountable to the city manager. It is not within the commission's authority to, for example, tell staff to prepare an amendment to the code, tell staff how to approach an issue, or tell staff how to process an application. The above recommendations, if you have them, should be shared with the city council member who appointed you, or the commission can make a recommendation to city council with a vote. So the commission's relationship with city council, the commission acts as an advisory role. Advisory means that the commission makes recommendations to city council, but city council has the final say. The commission may recommend policy, but it's the city council who actually enacts policy. Let's talk about social media. The city of Santa Ana has a prime interest and expectation in deciding what's spoken on behalf of the city on social media sites. You are personally responsible for the content you publish on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or any other form of social media. You should not post obscenities, slurs, or personal attacks. As a commissioner, the line between public and private is blurred when it comes to social media. Social media use by a city or its officials raises numerous First Amendment issues, as well as Public Record Act and Brown Act concerns. We'll talk a little bit more about social media later. So, any questions so far? Okay, go ahead.
It says 7 years as a member. How come?
7 years, I think it was 7 commissioners, 7 members.
Yeah, so sorry, 7 members and 4 years each. How come?
It's in our municipal code, and it's similar to any kind of other elected official or appointed official. There are usually term limits, just like every president, governor, and any kind of public capacity, there's usually a term limit of some kind.
And why the 2 years that showed up for, it was like one official, it was for 2 years?
That coincides with the mayor because the mayor is on a schedule of 2 years.
And how does that get elected or like singled out?
The mayor?
No,
Or-
but the person that gets the 2-year term.
I don't know the genesis, honestly, of why that was done, and I don't know if staff knows the genesis. I know we have some staff members who've been working for the city for a very long time. I don't know if you guys know. No? Yeah, I don't know what the genesis is of that particular commission member.
I do have a question for clarification. Are the commissioners tied to the ward or to the elected official?
They're tied to the elected official.
Okay.
Yeah, so whatever commission, or whatever council member appointed them.
Okay, thank you.
So let's go into the Brown Act. So what is the Brown Act? Ralph M. Brown was an actual person. He was a state legislator. So the Ralph M. Brown Act is a California law originally adopted in 1953. And the key to the Brown Act is very long and very boring. If you ever want to read it, pick it up right before you go to bed. I'm sure you'll get a good night's sleep. But the key to the Brown Act is really a single sentence. And in summary, all meetings should be open and public, except when the Brown Act authorizes otherwise. So think of the government house as like a glass house, and the curtains can only be drawn to further the public's interest and in very specific, detailed situations. So what is a meeting under the Brown Act? A meeting is any gathering of a majority of members. So today we have a majority of the members, 4 is a quorum, to hear or discuss any item of city business or potential city business. So it requires notice, an agenda, and a time for public comment. So that's something that all meetings of a quorum need to have. Unless a majority gathering falls into one of the Brown Act's exemptions to the definition of a meeting, it will be considered a meeting subject to the Brown Act. So again, you gotta have notice, agenda, and the ability for the public to speak. So does that mean meetings are limited to face-to-face gatherings only? No, they're not limited to just face-to-face gatherings. Also includes any communication medium or device through which a majority of the body discusses, deliberates, or takes action on a business item outside of a noticed meeting. That includes emails, text messages, social media posts, or messages. We live in a virtual world, especially since COVID, so these are all things we have to consider. So here we're going to talk about social media again. A public official may communicate on social media regarding a matter within the legislative body's subject matter jurisdiction to answer questions, provide information to the public, or to solicit information from the public. However, there's a caveat. So long as a majority of the members of the legislative body do not use the social media platform to discuss among themselves official business. So what does that mean? What does discuss among themselves mean? Well, it could mean making a post, commenting on a post, using digital icons that express reactions, for example, emojis, communication made by other members of the legislative body, a screenshot and a repost, liking or disliking a post. Social media could mean, you guys are probably all familiar with these, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, or blog. So If there are a majority of members on social media, I'm just going to use Facebook because I use Facebook, and you all are friends, and somebody posts something about official city business or official commission business, and 3 other members like it, dislike it, heart it, whatever, that is a meeting. 4 people talking about city business on the same platform, that is a meeting, and it's subject to the Brown Act. So we would have to provide notice, we would have to put it on an agenda, and we would have to have the ability to have public comment. Next slide, please. So meetings have to be open and public. So like we are here today. It applies to a government body of a local agency, city council, and any commission, committee, board that is created by formal action of the city council, like the Arts and Culture Commission. It does not apply to, so the Brown Act does not apply to ad hoc meetings with less than a quorum. So for your commission, a quorum is 4. So 3 or less, you don't have to follow the Brown Act. Next slide, please. So meetings less than a quorum. There are 2 types of meetings where there's less than a quorum. There's a standing committee. A standing committee is continuing, it has a continuing subject matter. There is no end date, and it has longevity. Those are subject to the Brown Act. An ad hoc committee, which ad hoc in Latin means to this, has to do with a specific task. So for this situation, it exists for a short period of time. It dissolves upon completion of the task, and it is not subject to the Brown Act. So some Brown Act exemptions. So again, the Brown Act says you got to have an agenda, you've got to have it's got to be open and public, and it's got to be have the ability to have public comment. But there are certain scenarios where you don't have to do that. So the Brown Act does not apply to individual contacts between a member body and any other person. So for example, a conference call or a telephone call or conversation with any other person, including staff, constituents, press, so one-on-one members. But individual contacts cannot be used to do in stages what would be prohibited in one step. And that's the concept of what's called the serial meeting. And let me go into that a little bit. So we can't have serial meetings. So under the Brown Act, a majority of members of the legislative body shall not, outside of a meeting, use a series of communications of any kind directly or through intermediaries to discuss, deliberate, or take action on any item of business that is within the subject matter of the jurisdiction of the legislative body. So what does that all mean? It means you can't develop a collective concurrence with individual contacts. And let me get into that, what that kind of looks like. So first of all, we can't do that because it deprives the public of the opportunity to observe and participate in decision-making. Again, the Brown Act says we have to be open and public. And this might occur either by what's called a daisy chain or a hub and spoke sequence. And so let me explain what that means. So with the hub and spoke sequence, it's where member A talks to member B, and then member A goes and talks to member C and talks about what A and B talked about, and then member A goes to member D and talks about what A and B talked about, what A and C talked about. And so essentially everybody knows what's going on, but not everybody talked at the same time. So that's the hub and spoke collective concurrence type of situation. And then there's the daisy chain, where member A contacts member B then contacts member C and talks about what A and B talked about, and then C contacts D and talks about what A, B, and C all talked about. Think of the game Telephone, for those of you who are old enough to remember that one. By the time you get to the end, it's a completely different statement than what was said from the beginning. So it causes other problems, but that's also a daisy chain collective concurrence where a meeting can occur, but you're not necessarily all meeting at the same time. So how do you avoid serial meetings? Well, direct contacts about city business with fellow members are the clearest means by which a serial meeting can occur. So if one participant discloses the views of another participant to a third or a fourth member, et cetera, that's where you have your serial meeting resulting. The best way to avoid it is to refrain from discussing agency business with a quorum or sharing views of others outside of the meeting. So members of a body may consult with city staff outside of the meeting for questions or information about a matter, so don't be afraid to talk to staff. But staff and commissioners should be very careful not to disclose the comments or position of another member. It's okay to talk about what you might think, but refrain from talking about what maybe another commission member told you. This can facilitate a collective concurrence outside of a noticed and open motion, or notice an open meeting, and result in a Brown Act violation. So other exceptions to the Brown Act, so maybe a place where all the commission members are, but it's not considered something that's subject to the Brown Act. Seminars and conferences open to the public and of general interest. Community meetings that are open and publicized. Going to meetings of other legislative bodies, if you want to go to Anaheim, Irvine, one of their city council meetings, social or ceremonial occasions. And again, the caveat is if the majority of you are present at any of these, you cannot discuss any items of city business, or else a meeting results and it's subject to the Brown Act, open and public, agenda, public comment. So any questions on that, please?
On that last point, if it's an issue discussing general items of the city and its residents, but that are not necessarily being discussed currently in an agenda item or anything, does that constitute a city business?
So you have to be careful because your commission is very specific. It's arts and culture. You know, you obviously are all residents of the city of Santa Ana. You're all welcome to go to city council meetings. You're welcome to discuss items that maybe you won't be discussing, but it's kind of hard to tell sometimes if something's going to bleed over from, say, a city council meeting into what you guys discuss. So it's just, you know, just be careful is, I guess, what I'm saying. Does that make sense? Did that answer your question? The lawyer's favorite response is, it depends. It depends. And that's really what it is. It depends. If it's city business talking about, I'm trying to think of something that you guys wouldn't even talk about. I don't know, like something maybe the Community Development Commission deals with. Maybe you're talking about or the Planning Commission, like maybe it's a new building that's going to go up and it has to do with affordable housing. It's not really something that you guys deal in, and so you can have a discussion, but honestly, the best course of practice is to refrain from discussing amongst yourselves any official city business. That's really the best practice. When you guys have a quorum present, that doesn't mean you can't talk about your friends, talk to your friends about it, family about it. It's when there's seven total right now? There's 6. So when the 6 of you come together, that is what triggers the Brown Act, or at least 4 of the 6 of you come together. That's the trigger of the Brown Act. And you guys start talking about it or somehow discussing it on social media. That's the key. Does that make sense? I hope that answers your question a little bit more. All right. Any other questions?
Yes, some clarification on the social media point. So say a commissioner makes a post about an event. Just like, I attended this event, this is what happened. And then, again, it's an arts event. And 3 other commissioners just do like a thumbs up. Is that violating Brown Act?
So technically, yes, it's a discussion that you guys are having, and it's very benign. It's very, hey, I went here. But you're talking about city business, you're talking about something specifically that you guys may have discussed. And so it requires notice, it requires an agenda, and it requires the ability for the public to comment. So again, that's why it's just best to, when it comes to social media, and again, social media is an issue because it involves freedom of speech. You all have freedom of speech. You can write whatever you want on your, especially on your own personal, social media pages. It's an issue when you guys become friends with each other, or if you have a public type of profile where anyone can post on your profile, then if 4 or more of you comment on something having to do with what you discussed, that's where it becomes an issue. So one practice could be, don't be friends with each other on social media. That way, there's the inability for you guys to, if you don't have a public page. Does that kind of make
does.
sense? Okay.
Related question then. So say a community organization that puts up an arts event, puts up a post, and then at least 4 of us like that post. Is that also a violation?
Could potentially be a violation, yes. Yeah, because you're all talking about the same thing, having to do with city business. So yes, it's potentially. Other questions? No, okay. I'm going to turn it over to Rachel now. Thank you very much.
Hello, nice to meet you all. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the actual meeting procedures and then get into some best practices. So to begin with, who is the chairperson? The chairperson or the chair is an individual elected by the commission who has the responsibility of informing the city council of actions or inactions that the commission can or will take and the reasons behind those actions or inactions. The chairperson shall also preside at all commission meetings, authorize calls for special meetings, and execute all documents authorized by the commission. The vice chair will perform these duties of the chair in their absence. They are also elected by the commission. So the Santa Ana Municipal Code, section 2328, which was at the end there, that just governs when elections take place, so those will be in July of every year. It also just provides guidelines. If the chair or the vice chair is incapacitated during the term, they may also elect someone to fill in for the rest of the term. So now we're going to get into the actual addressing of agenda items in meetings. So to start off with, the chair will announce the agenda item and clearly state the subject matter. They will then invite presentation of the staff report and any recommendations from the staff. Step 3, they will then ask if the commissioners have any questions or need clarification on anything. The clarification will be a recurring theme throughout this steps, just to make sure everybody stays on the same page throughout meetings. Step 4, the chair will then invite public comment on the item if it is on the agenda and being heard as a public hearing. So we're going to talk a little bit more about step 4. So all public comments on the respective item, if it is a public hearing, will be heard during this step 4 timing. However, if it is not a public agenda item, then members of the public can speak during the general comments section prior to the business agenda. Public comments during either point will be limited to 3 minutes for each speaker. And at the end of public comments, the chair will announce that public input has concluded. Once public comment has concluded, the chair will then invite a motion on the item and announce the name of the commissioner who is making the motion. They will then invite a second to the motion and announce the name of the commissioner who seconds. Once the motion is made and seconded, the chair will repeat the motion and ask the maker of the motion or the commission secretary to repeat it, or will repeat it themselves. This goes back to the clarity. Once again, we just want to make sure everyone understands what's going on throughout the meetings. That is when discussion of the motion kicks off. If it is a lengthy discussion, the chair will repeat the motion as often as necessary to make sure, once again, everybody understands. Once discussion has concluded, the chair will ask for a vote on the item. You can vote aye, no, or abstain from voting. Once voting has concluded, the chair will announce the result of the vote and what action, if any, the commission has taken or will take. So amending motions. So any member can amend a motion by saying, I move to amend the motion by, and then state what specifically they are wanting to change about the motion. Like actually making the motion, it must be seconded. And it is debatable unless the motion to be amended itself is not debatable. That's kind of a confusing sentence. But essentially, if discussion has officially concluded, then it cannot continue, even if there is amended motion. An amended motion can always be amended again, so it can continue until the discussion has concluded. A majority of vote will be needed for the amended motion, and it can always be reconsidered. So now we're going to talk about actually reconsidering the motion. So reconsidering the motion occurs at a later point in time. So amending is to actually change the motion prior to voting, but reconsidering is essentially you voted on it and now you want to re-vote. It can only be made by someone who was on the prevailing side. So if the majorities voted yes or aye, then someone who voted aye and now wants to switch it to no has to make the motion. It also has to be seconded. And it's only debatable if the main question has not been debated yet. So this discussion has concluded. Most likely it's no longer debatable. It may not be amended at this point. You have to vote on the motion as is. A majority vote is needed for it to pass, and a reconsideration cannot be further reconsidered. So it's kind of like a one do-over situation. So public participation has two comment periods. So the first is going to be the general audience public comment, which happens at the beginning before the business agenda items are addressed. And the second is going to be that step 4 time when specific agenda items that are open to public hearing are addressed. So just some things about the non-agenda item discussions. First, members can briefly respond to public comments or questions and can provide a referral to staff or other resources. Members may also ask questions for clarification and may report on their own activities, but not activities of the commission in general. They may request staff to report back on any matter or issue that arises. Any questions?
I do want to ask something, Rachel, because previously we were able to have public comments at the beginning of the meeting and then before any agenda item. And then after COVID happened and then everything was pushed to the beginning. Is it back to now we can have public comments right before an agenda item?
I think public comment is whenever, so there's two types of public comment. There's the general public comment, and that discusses anything that's not on the agenda. And so that's done first. And then for each agenda item, there's public comment. So you guys weren't doing public comment before? I don't know what was happening prior to COVID. That's why I'm asking.
Nowadays, what we do is even for comments specific to an agenda item has to go at the very beginning of the meeting versus it used to be right before an agenda item. We would open it up for public comments and then discuss the item.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize that that's what you weren't doing. So it should go pretty similarly to how city council does, where they hear the general comments and then for each agenda item, wherever it is for the agenda, it's usually before they deliberate. You should be able to have public comment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, could you go back to the previous slide before the goal number 4, just briefly? Okay, that's it. Thank you.
So now we're just going to discuss some best practices. And this goes for how you conduct yourselves with each other and with public and throughout the meetings. So first, one person has the floor at a time. This is just to make sure that everybody has a chance to speak. To help facilitate this, the chair will first recognize each speaker. The discussion should focus on the agenda item and not of the personalities of other commissioner members. Once again, the chair can facilitate this. It's through the right to cut off discussion that is too personal, too loud, or rude. So just some tips for maintaining civility in meetings. So first, make sure you get the facts of whatever subject is being discussed. This is just to make sure that everything stays clear and that everybody's on the same page. Use fair processes and listen with an open mind. While everybody should have the chance to speak, they should also have the chance to be heard. And if people aren't actively listening, speaking only goes so far. Make sure that we focus on the agenda item, once again, and not the personalities or any excess input. Do not attack or question the motives of other members, and limit misunderstandings. If you need clarification, just be sure to seek it out. Do not engage in two-way dialogue with the audience. They will have their chance to be heard, but they are not part of the actual discussion. You should also try to prepare in advance of the meeting by reviewing the agenda and staff reports. While staff reports may be presented at the meeting, it's not always easy to understand facts on the first run-through, and we can make the meetings more efficient and run smoother if everyone comes in prepared. This also allows for the opportunity to ask questions or concerns in advance of the actual meeting. Typically, questions are common to multiple people, and this gives staff the chance to address these comments or concerns prior to the meeting. They can come in more prepared, as well as you coming in more prepared. Okay, finally, enjoy your time as a commissioner. You guys provide a valuable service to the council, city council, staff, and the community. Do you have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea and Rachel, but would we be able to get a copy of this deck? Or, okay. All right, thank you.
I can send copies via email. I'll put it on a PDF and send it to everyone.
Thank you, Bianca. I look forward to reviewing that again later. All right, at this time, this is the time for the commission to consider matters under consent calendar item number 2. Do I have a motion to consider item number 2?
I motion.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hernandez. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Peña-Marin. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Matter approved by unanimous consent. Item number 4 on today's agenda will be removed, and no further action is required on this matter. To explain further, at the June 19th Arts and Culture Commission meeting, the commission voted 3-1 to approve the Sahuayo Sister City mural ranking list and the selection of artists. However, due to some uncertainty regarding the validity of the vote in relation to quorum requirements, it was requested that the item be continued to tonight's meeting for clarification. After consulting with the City Attorney's Office, it has been confirmed that, in accordance with the Commission's bylaws and Rosenberg's Rules of Order, a motion passes with a majority of those present and voting. As there were 4 commissioners present and the item received a 3-to-1 vote, the action taken at the June meeting to approve the Sahuayo Sister City mural ranking list and the selection of artists stands as valid and final. And so we will now consider matters under the business calendar. The first item on the business calendar is item number 3, election of officers for the Arts and Culture Commission for the fiscal year 2025 to 2026. I am opening the election of officers at this time. If there is more than one nomination for a seat, we shall vote by ballot. The time is now open for nominations for chairperson. Are there any nominations?
I'd like to voice my vociferous support of Chair Vu to remain in the position, as she has done an incredible job. So that is my feeling on that.
Are there any additional nominations? If there are no further nominations, the nominations are now closed. For the point of order, am I allowed to motion for this myself?
Yes. You can nominate yourself.
Okay, I motion that myself.
And I think you can also nominate for the vice chair.
Wait, it's in order, so it's like chair and then vice chair. So I motion that myself, Commissioner Vu, be named the next chairperson effective August 1st, 2025. Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor? Oh, actually, thank you, Commissioner Hernandez, for the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Matter approved by unanimous consent. And we will now proceed with nominations for vice chairperson. Are there any nominations?
You can nominate someone or you can nominate yourself for vice chair.
I nominate Commissioner Hernandez to continue to be vice chair for this following term. Are there any additional nominations? If there are no further nominations, the nominations are now closed, and I motion that Commissioner Hernandez be named the next vice chairperson effective August 1st, 2025. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Peña-Marin?
Yes.
Peña-Marin. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Matter approved by unanimous consent. We'll now move into a work study session, and we have 2 items under work study session. Please note that there will be no motion or action taken on these items. The first item under the work study session is discussion of the theme for the 2025 to 2026 Investing in the Artist Grant.
Okay, thank you, Chair Vu. We're about to embark on opening up the call for proposals for this next round of investing in the Artist Grant Program for 2025-2026. It's come so quickly this time on the heel of the other round. And in light of our discussion last meeting, I'd like to open it up to all the commissioners for suggestions on what the theme should be that would be relevant to help the community, to uplift the community for this round. So may I ask for some suggestions? Last time Chair Vu said something about resources to help, provide resources to the community with what's happening in politically and socially in our community.
Before we get into the discussion of the theme, just so that the newer commissioners are on the same page as well, could you go over the requirements of the grant program versus, which is separate from the sponsorship?
Correct, yes. So because it's a grant, the city's policy is usually it's a reimbursement grant, which means that although we do give the first payment, the first check to the artist or arts organization, subsequent checks need to have receipts that correlate and correspond with the amount that we're giving out. So we would get the receipts first and then distribute the check. So it's a reimbursement system. Their minimum requirements should be that the event or program needs to happen in the city of Santa Ana and directly benefit the residents and business and/or businesses surrounding, within the city. All recipients need to have business license, a valid current Santa Ana business license, as well as valid and current insurance. So those are all things that I go over with all applying, prospective applicants during a mandatory information session. Those are just like the minimum requirements in order to receive this grant. And I think this year the amount will be $200,000. And it's open to both individual artists as well as arts organizations. If you apply as an arts organization, if you apply as an individual artist, the amount is up to $10,000. If you apply as an arts organization, which has more requirements such as proof of nonprofit status, proof of, just good standing financially, then you can apply for up to $20,000.
And then just for a little bit extra context as well, could you share what some of the previous themes in previous years were?
Yes, previous themes have been, one very popular theme was La Cultura Cura, which is art heals, and that was during COVID time. That required, because it was COVID related or the pandemic related, it had to be outdoors and it had to incorporate this idea of art healing the community. Last rounds was participatory as well as economic development, how this project or program would contribute to that, to the city. And true participation, meaning not just as a passive observer of the art, but genuinely incorporating the community and folks into that program. And they have a say in how this program was going to be presented or conducted. So those are the two main themes and even the one before that was how to incorporate elders or senior citizens into your program to reach out to that population that can be ignored.
Yeah, thank you for that context. I think that gives us a good basis to begin our discussion, unless any other commissioners have additional questions right now before we start.
I agree with, as I was reading what the agenda was and thinking today, what would be a theme or what could potentially be a theme, I was also along that line of how can we tie it to what we're experiencing right now as a community? How can the theme somehow support that? I'm thinking of what would that phrase or term be? I didn't get there, but I personally am in the same line of how can we tie this that arts organizations can bring, because I firmly believe that art is going to be a key to helping everybody heal.
We could repeat or combine past themes too. We don't have to have such a brand new original theme either, necessarily.
Oh, I want to apologize if I misgendered you earlier, Chair, but I want to say that I believe that in this moment really calls for highlighting the fact that we are an immigrant city. And, so themes around migration really feel like would resonate with the moment, with our community. Right? We have to remember that we're 77% Latino community, which is, I believe, the highest percentage of any city. And many of our community members are, in fact, immigrants. So in this moment when we're facing, attacks on immigrants, the concept of immigrants are welcome here, or, migration is beautiful, I feel like could be a couple of themes that perhaps could be adopted in this moment.
I definitely echo Vice Chair Hernandez's comments around this. I mean, some basic statistics are that about 25% of the city is comprised of non-citizens, and nearly 30% of all voting age residents in the city are also non-citizens. And so the city has been built with and has always been thriving because of the immigrants in our community. And in this time, I think that it is important for the arts to really highlight and uplift these stories of community members. But in particular, I think that it's important for this art to do something actionable as well, not just to like beautify, not only to uplift, but also to contribute somehow to whether that is like creating a resource that people can actually use. So this opens things up to like, I think of some really amazing political education that's been done through comics to uplift what's happening in particular communities and therefore highlight what's happening overall to all of our immigrant communities, or turning Know Your Rights information, which can be very dry and can be very, at times, difficult to understand, into an art form, into a flyer, a poster, something including the arts that makes it easier for people, more that people gravitate to more. So I'm in favor of having it be connected in some way to something actionable or some resource that would be able to benefit immigrant communities here as well.
I have a question. Does the campaign have to have a name?
Not necessarily, you can give an idea.
Okay. Because I think that's just,
We can do the name later.
yeah, okay.
It will have something.
Okay. Okay, awesome.
Theme, right?
Yeah, just a theme.
Yeah. But I think a headline name is ideal. So it's, it's captivating.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that word?
Like a campaign name,
Oh, yes, yes.
it is captivating to the general public.
Yes. Okay, so far I've heard migration, something around migration/immigration, migration being beautiful, that welcome here, migrants are welcome here, or immigrants are welcome here. And also highlighting and uplifting the non-citizen population. Can I clarify, is it 25% of the city or 30% of the city, did you say?
25% overall, 30% of voting age.
Oh, 30% of voting age, okay. And have some kind of, contribute some kind of actionable item and or resources. That sounds solid to me so far. If you,
Highlighting stories and their contributions, I think, is ideal. And I think that's something that we've always done. But I think it should be cemented now, more than ever. I think that's the medicine that we need right now.
I'd like somehow also to include the multiracial solidarity and the multiracial aspect of immigration and immigrant communities here in Santa Ana. We have such a wide, diverse set of different communities that are impacted by immigration and deportation. And I would like to see the projects that come through this, or the proposals that come through this, reflect that as much as possible.
Are we pitching ideas right now? What about like first generation children of migrants? I think getting their stories, like, I mean, in one generation, I think there's a lot of stories out here personal friends as well. It's like astronomical, like from what it was in the motherland to how it is out here, like what they were able to achieve, you know? I think it's great, like maybe getting those stories as well, you know, not only, you know, like both sides. So I think that would be something to consider. Yeah.
Commissioner Ochoa, I really like that idea. I think it expands then what we include as like part of who's included in these migrant communities, right? And rather than using that to like narrow the kind of proposals that can be brought forth, I think this actually expands it by saying it can be through the perspective of someone who is a migrant themselves or their families, because the families are impacted too.
I am the son of two migrants that came to Santa Ana, so I am one of so many, you know, and these are, you know, my parents are both assets to this country, so it was, you know, like it, and I'm one of many. I mean, I go to any meat market, any school, any bakery, you're standing in line with someone who is like very similar story. You know, our parents probably know each other whether we've met or not. Like that's how much part of the fabric of the tapestry that we all are, you know. So it's like it's very similar. So I think, yeah, expanding the horizons as far as that, I think it's something to look into and to see what that looks like, I think would be ideal.
Sure, it definitely is expanding because everybody in Santa Ana is a migrant of some form. It's not just any population, and also coming to Santa Ana to live, you know, coming from anywhere else. So not just another country, but another city, another state even. So I think it really expands that, and then, or descendants of these migrants.
Yeah, unless you're Native American, you know, we're all immigrants here, whether you're first, second, third, fourth generation. So yeah, I think that's, and it's not exclusive to any one race, right? So whether, you know, your folks came from Europe through, you know, through Ellis Island, or you came, you know, from across the border, or et cetera, et cetera. You know, I think it's a theme, a general theme that, and you know, our community in general can plug into, and we just want to hear the stories about, again, in this moment when migrants are under attack. You know, we have to reinforce the fact that migration is beautiful, that this nation is built, you know, in like literally by immigrants, but also the vision and the dream, you know, is from people from different races, ethnicities, religious, you know, backings, etc. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of room to be able to, for folks to plug in and tell their stories and lift up. And I would expect and hope that even the grant proposals that that we approve are, you know, we're looking for diversity in the type of projects that we're looking to approve.
What about something as far as like, I don't know if this is wild, but like we have a lot of different nationalities and backgrounds again. And something, everybody's intake is food. So some kind of food festival, like different recipes, somewhere where it's like, you know, I like the fact that in Santa Ana, I can get pho, the closest thing without having to go to Vietnam. I can have Korean barbecue I happen to go to Seoul. I can go and eat Mexican food regionally from areas that I don't have to travel to Mexico. This is the closest thing. And it's something breaking bread. I mean, everybody's guard is down. I think it's something that we all have to do, you know, and I think that's a good template to like think of. You know, I know we are arts and culture, but I think culturally, food is universal. We all have to eat, and I think that's something to think about.
I definitely agree. I think the culinary arts are definitely an arts, right? So to have that be an example of something that someone can propose as well, definitely in favor of. Are there any additional comments or questions for this discussion right now before I close it off? Then I'll close this out by saying that I think it is our duty as the advisory board to the City Council on matters of arts and culture, as we recognize these attacks on our communities, it is our duty really to stand in the face of xenophobia and nativism and develop a culture within our city and foster a culture within our city that uplifts and really encourages all people from all backgrounds to participate and to really, really belong here. And so I'm excited for this year's Artist Grant theme that's going to be in development. And I know that there was also some interest in an ad hoc committee for an RFP process as well. I do want to ask if any commissioners here are interested in being a part of that ad hoc. Just to, let us have the ability to craft the RFP process in a way that would be as equitable as possible. And we can also return to this another time.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to know more about that and see what that looks like. What does it consist of? And like timelines and dates. I would like further information because I see that's something positive that I think a lot of people could benefit from that.
Yeah, so I'll mark you down as interested in the ad hoc. We need at least one other commission member who is interested to be on this ad hoc committee. So for now, unless there is two, there will be no ad hoc, but we can always come back when there is a second person and formally form the ad hoc committee.
And that's 3?
We just need 2 total, maximum 3.
Oh, okay.
You're not joining, Chairwood?
I am unable to.
And that was a proposal that you're making to do that. I'm happy to join, Commissioner, on this.
All right. So then I will make a formal motion to set up an RFP ad hoc subcommittee. Do I have a second on this motion?
I second.
Point of order, do we vote on it then after the second on the motion for this subcommittee?
Because this is a work study session, we don't vote. There's no voting.
Even for the subcommittee?
Yeah, I think.
Correct.
it's in your
It's just that,
okay.
yeah.
I think it's in your
It's just
prerogative to
informal to form the ad hoc and whoever wants to join.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for the clarification. And also, we can still add a third member at a later date if that is something that's desired.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if Commissioner Russell or Commissioner Lopez Guerra is willing to join. So I think I would welcome it. So I strongly suggest that they join. So we have a little balance. It's just not us two brothers trying to, figure stuff out.
Amazing. Okay. Then with that, we will move into the second item under the work study session, which is the discussion of the funding priorities for fiscal year 2025 to 2026. As a brief recap of last time, we started discussing last time just one comment from each commissioner, what we want to see with the $200,000 that has been allocated to the Arts and Culture Commission for the fiscal year 2025 to 2026. And Trem, would you have any comments or ability to summarize some of the preliminary ideas that came up last time?
Yes, the last time 2 main ideas came out. One was to continue the sponsorship program for artists. And that program, different from the grant program, is that it is a donation agreement, which means there is no reimbursement, there is no any of that kind of oversight. It simply is you approve the project and we cut the check for the event. So there's that, and it's also open to, and there's no amount that has been discussed yet, but it's open to both individual and arts organizations. And that also can have a theme if you'd like. And secondly, another idea that I heard was to have some kind of resource workshop, grant writing workshop, or some kind of professional development workshops for these artists so that we can arm them with tools to be successful in sustaining themselves as artists.
I welcome any commissioners to share their thoughts on what we should be funding, and we can get more specific here during this discussion today, including dollar amounts or like percentages of our total budget that we want to allocate toward particular projects, the proposal of other projects along with these two, or even to say that maybe we don't want one of these ideas. This is the time for us to discuss that. And I will also say that if we feel that the discussion as a commission here is not enough time for us to get to the specifics, we can also form a budget priorities ad hoc subcommittee as well to do the work to get us to a draft of an idea, or even options, several different options of a draft. And then as a commission, we can then consider that, if that makes it a little bit more efficient for us to be able to consider these ideas.
I think I need clarification. So we have the theme for the year, and then the separate is how much we want to take that $200,000 in budget in different areas?
Right now, there's two different programs, funding programs that are being discussed. The first one was the artist grant one.
Right.
That has its own $200,000. That follows the grant process. Then there's up for discussion, it has not yet been confirmed, is an additional $200,000 that has been allocated towards arts program in general. There has been no clear or confirmed method of using it yet.
Okay.
So this is what we're discussing. Two of the ideas, one of them being a sponsorship program and for arts programming. And then which can have its own theme, separate theme, same theme, that's up for discussion, as well as the personal development workshops.
Thank you.
Before I get started, so the way that we do RFP for artist grants, specifically, like probably not part of this discussion right now, just because I think I mentioned before, and if it's not attached to the artist grants, perhaps it could be part of the event sponsorship, was around making sure that we prioritize artists that live in Santa Ana. As you know, a lot of comments about Saguayo mural, and like that's moving forward, but I mentioned that it was one of the things that I would like to see is to make sure that there's a way that applications from residents of Santa Ana have a way to be weighted or graded higher than others. That there's a specific kind of extra 10 points or whatever. However that it works out, and I would leave that to you, Tram, and city manager or staff to figure that out. But I would really like for that to happen in the artist grant. And if that's not possible, then definitely in the events programs, the programming of that we're thinking about, the additional 200,000. So that I want to just say that off the bat. And yeah, just for context for folks that are newer, the big push for us here was to make sure that we spread the money out as much as we can. This is not funds that can necessarily run can pay for all of like the event that people are proposing. It's some seed money. It's to get it going, like for some that are like not that expensive events, it might be enough for them for the whole event, but and for other events, it's only just a percentage of it. And so I believe the last time we had tapped the amount totals to 15,000, I want to say, or was it 10, or was it more? Can you recall, Tram? How 15,000 was the max that we could give
From
in
the
event
last-
for event sponsorship from the last time.
Yeah,
15,000, yeah. I think very few applicants even got that much because, again, we are trying to spread, those funds out to be able to give a little bit to as many organizations as possible. One of the things that we initially brought up was around the Bowers Museum and other large entities like that. Nothing against the Bowers or any of these, larger organizations. But, they get millions of dollars, federal, state funds, that, other local artists or small organizations just don't have access to. And so prioritizing or those smaller orgs or individuals as opposed to giving money to orgs that already get a lot of money was, something that individually we kind of kept in mind as we were figuring out who to donate, who to approve and not approve. And yeah, and yeah, so those are my initial comments for now.
Just for clarification, a priority to Santa Ana organizations or artists, have we in the past, and I don't know, I'm just trying to understand, have we in the past given grants to organizations or artists that are not here from Santa Ana? Has that been a practice?
Yes.
Okay.
The requirement is that whatever event happens in Santa Ana. And that's also to bring a lot of different, well-known artists or organizations from outside, sharing their talents here and engaging the community here.
Okay. Has that been a common practice? I'm not saying one way or the other is right or wrong. I'm just trying to wrap my head around
Yes.
what has been typical practice.
Typical common practice.
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Commissioner Ochoa?
Yeah, I think for event sponsorship, it is good and it should be spread out. I think at any capacity, in any area, it should be embraced. On last visit when I came, it was something mentioned about balloons and it was kind of knocked aside. I don't think it should be knocked aside. As entry level as it may be, I don't care if it's face painting, I don't care if it's balloon animals. We all have to start somewhere, and I believe that that creates traction and momentum. When I came to the States, I started with cartoons and I was very influenced by them, but it led me to drawing, to led me to skateboarding, to then creating a style for myself, music taste, influence, that led to tattooing, that led to different mediums, that now I'm in local government. So as entry level as it may be, no matter what it is, I think it should be embraced and I think it should be spread out in all areas. So for the rest of the panel, I think it's important. So as entry level as it may be, there should be money in event sponsorship towards stuff like at that capacity. It doesn't necessarily have to be a 30-foot mural, is what I'm saying.
Yes, for the sponsorship particularly, we've given grants to chalk painting on the sidewalk for a neighborhood association.
Thank you for that. I just wanted to make sure that was an item on the.
To clarify the balloons comment, I believe from last meeting, it was that, so for both sponsorships and grants, all applicants have to submit a budget. And so within that budget, we see what the funds are going toward. And so the comment was that balloons for an event is not necessarily what we want to fund. We want to fund the artists, we want to fund other things as opposed to the balloons at an event. That's not saying a balloon artist, which is separate. So just a clarification for that comment.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
And to continue my comment as well, I want to caution us to keep the number of programs little with the funds. I know this is the first time since the inception of this commission that there's actual funds for the commission as a whole, but I also recognize that there's one staff member assigned to this office. And to break down our 200,000 into several different programs would not be very effective use of those funds because we wouldn't be able to administer them very well. And so I'm definitely leaning toward allocating probably like 150,000, having the sponsorships nearly match the grant program so that we have two tiers. That grant program has higher requirements and would have a higher level of accountability that the artists and the organizations have to provide. The sponsorships are where people get started with receiving city funds. So I want that beginning step to, as much as possible, come close to or match the Artist Grant Program funds. So what I'm recommending at this point would be 150,000 for sponsorships, and then for the 50,000, we can still discuss what that might go toward, including potentially the grant writing workshops.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, and I believe I've spoken about it previously, but yeah, it's part of what the feedback was from the community was that the bar is a little too high for many of our artists and groups of artists that are applying for these artist grants. There's a limited amount of money and there's a lot of amazing artists, but not everybody has the skill set to write a good grant proposal. So if we can take some of these funds from the event sponsorship, to have a series of workshops there where we invite our local artists, because this is like I mentioned, this is just part of the game. Like you have to, like, if you want to start a nonprofit, like you have to like connect with funders and know how to write good grants. Like Marlene can speak to that, of course, and many of us here. But and so it is with artists. You just have to be able to be a good salesman, pitch yourself and your art, but also, write good proposals, because there's a lot of money out on the table, and so we want our artists to develop their skills, not just as artists, but also as good storytellers, and be able to write compelling grants that will get them the funds to continue their growth and to share their art. So I don't know if that looks like 50,000. Depending on, yeah. So I'm curious to how much that fund, those workshops would take. Perhaps it's more like 25. But yeah, I agree that having it as close to what the artist grants is good, but to make sure that a good chunk of that money is, and perhaps that's a conversation for folks that have done these before, because I understand that this commission has done grant writing workshops previously.
I do have a question with that. I think it's a great idea. I like, I'm trying to, again, understand everything that's happening. What does it take, for example, putting together a workshop, whether it's grant writing or how to present yourself, how to sell yourself for young emerging artists or new artists, someone that's tapping into this industry, this field? Does that happen through you? Are you the one that would have to organize that? Is that something you could do through, for example, One OC, that there's already these programs in place? I'm just trying to think of what that workload is, right? For you as a one-person administrator, how much more are we adding to the plate for that? Is it doable? I mean, is it really feasible? And with time, yes, the money is there, which is amazing, and I'm so happy to hear this. But just trying to think logistically, okay, these are great ideas, but can it be done? Or can you partner with other organizations where it's not you necessarily trying to find someone to trying to develop professional development programs, which is another job in and of itself? I don't know. It's just my question.
Yes, it would be me. I would have to do all the coordination, find the location, find the person leading this workshop, do all the agreements, pay, all of it for each workshop that we need to do. And we can also partner with other orgs like One OC. Sometimes the feedback is that, these workshops are taking place too far for folks who don't have transportation. So they want something that is more in their neighborhood, in a community center, whatever it is. So that sometimes is part of that discussion, so, how do we best serve our community?
You referred to feedback regarding grants. Was there, I don't know if there was a percentage, or was it a large feedback that we know of artists that were looking for support in helping them develop themselves? Do we know? Do we have an idea? Is it a lot of artists? Is it a handful of folks? I don't know that you would have a way to extrapolate that, but.
Right now, we don't have a formal survey of how many people need it. In my experience, I know when I first started, when we did our very first workshop, I think like 75 people attended. So there was a huge need, but this was also 8 years ago. And over time, and of course, there's always new folks. And every time I do these kinds of workshop, at least about 25 people show up. So I think there will always be some new folks coming up, or, or just other folks who feel like they want to refresh their understanding of this. But we don't just have to focus on grant writing. There's other resources and tools that artists need for themselves. But it's going to be a lot of work. But yes, I will keep in mind definitely of partnering some way with another organization.
Okay, thank you. Again, just for clarification.
And then for additional context, correct me if I'm wrong, but this commission, from its inception, historically did artist grants only, and it was in 2021 the first time we did sponsorships.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, so the sponsorships are newer, and a newer way for us to give unrestricted just access to funds for newer artists. Are there any additional questions, comments?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to do this in the most efficient way possible so that it's not all on you to do this, right, Tram? So I don't know if that looks like being requesting an RFP through the artist grants funds to do this kind of that kind of work, where it's more structured and the accountability aspect is done. I don't know if requesting somebody to lead these grant writing workshops is an artist grant, or if it's the event sponsorship fund. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
You mean hiring somebody outside to do this? Is that what you're saying?
Something like that.
I don't know if these funds can be allocated towards staffing or administrative that way.
Not like a contracting kind of
I don't think
situation.
it has to be programmatic. What we've been allocated this funding is for programs only, but not the administration of.
So, but we've had presentations from folks that are doing a series of poetry, or not poetry, skit comedy workshops. You're not managing that, or they are managing that. So couldn't it, be done in a similar way that folks are applying for an artist grant to do grant workshops, and they're doing it, and you're not having to manage that?
That's an interesting idea. Yeah, I think there's a lot of different kinds of logistics that go into it, but that's an interesting idea. I think we can explore that.
Yeah, I'm interested in that because, yeah, we throw a lot of ideas out here, but those of us know that Tram is an army of one, and having support here and there, and learning about how the direction is giving, and respecting the process, right? Perhaps that's a conversation that we individually can have with the city manager to see how we can support you and trying to move these things along, right? Because and we're not even sure it's going to be 200,000, right? That's like for the event sponsorship, or that's already set?
I don't know about event sponsorship, but we have 200,000 that's been approved towards arts programming.
Okay, so there's still time to be able to create parameters and around that in there. Okay, so then perhaps that's like another conversation that we can continue to have. We still have time.
Yes, or because we are beginning our fiscal year budget, we don't have too much time because we have to get certain things ramping up. Otherwise, we can't spend that money by the end of the fiscal year. By the time we do the agreement, insurance, that takes up a lot of time. So we do have to have something soon-ish so that we can get it started. And you want to use up that 200,000 before you run out of time, because it needs to end by June, the end of June 2026. that we only have a year to do this, and we take up too many months planning it, there's not enough time to execute it.
Yeah.
But to what Chair Vu said, maybe perhaps this can be an ad hoc subcommittee, where that's when you will do a lot of this planning, dissecting, unpacking all of this, and then coming back, reporting back next month, say, to the commission again, of how to use this 200,000. And also, an RFP that's more equitable, So maybe we can combine the two as an ad hoc.
When's our next meeting? 21st?
August, yeah,
Okay, I'll be back. All right.
August 21st, yes.
Yeah, I'm challenged by the fact that we're missing two commissioners here and that they could, potentially join these. I mean, I'm willing to, although I just joined one, although I don't know, perhaps this one that we're talking about has more of a sense of urgency than the previous ad hoc that I joined, but I think this is really important.
It could be the same ad hoc. It doesn't have to
Okay.
necessarily be two separate ad hocs.
So Commissioner Ramos?
Russell?
No. Ochoa, sorry. Commissioner Ochoa, I don't know if that's something that you'd consider also talking about and taking on, or that's beyond what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I think that's beyond. I'd like to do, one thing at a time. And it's just low-hanging fruit for me right now would be like the first one. And then, once I get momentum and then more, I'm not seasoned as well as, I know you've been on the panel quite some time. So just as entry level as I am, I'd like to just take it when I can, then get seasoned. And then if I can latch on to more after that, then I would go ahead.
That's fair.
Since this budget ad hoc subcommittee has a much shorter time frame, I do expect if we do form this ad hoc subcommittee today, it will probably end by next month. So because of that, I will join with you. And Commissioner Pena Marin, would you be interested in joining as well, or not at this time?
I'm actually going into two big projects. I would love to, but realistically, I don't think I could give the time to it. And just to clarify, this is that 50,000 that we're proposing for development, right?
It would be taking a look at the overall $200,000 that we have and then developing a proposal for the commission at large to see how we're going to break it down and what we're going to spend it on. And I will say also that participation in the ad hoc subcommittees isn't, like, it doesn't always have to be equal across all people within that subcommittee. If you would like to join to just give feedback toward the end of a draft process, that would also be very helpful.
And how do you typically meet in ad hoc committees? How does that work? Just like, time frame, is that a separate meeting or?
Yes, that's the beauty of an ad hoc, is doesn't have to conform to Brown Act rules. And so you can meet anywhere, anytime. We can even meet over Zoom. So you dictate the parameters. You can meet
If
every
that's the
day.
case, I could squeeze in some time. I couldn't lead it, but I could definitely be part of the conversation. Sure.
Then I believe we have two ad hoc subcommittees confirmed today. The second ad hoc subcommittee will be on funding priorities with a presentation for our commission by the next meeting on August 21st. And it will consist of Vice Chair Hernandez, Commissioner, it's going to be a little bit, I'm sorry. Pena Marin. I need to remember the order of that. Pena Marin, and then myself. And then we will have something for us to propose and then agree upon, not with a vote, but just agree upon in discussion by next meeting.
Okay, so let me confirm here. So the ad hoc subcommittee for the distribution of the $200,000 for arts programs will consist of Vice Chair Hernandez, Chair Vu, and Commissioner Pena Marin, right? Okay. Whereas the ad hoc subcommittee for the RFP development is Commissioner Ochoa and Vice Chair Hernandez. Yes? Okay.
Are there any additional comments on this item? I'm very excited for the work that we're about to embark upon. And with that, we'll move into staff comments. Does the staff have any comments they wish to share with the commission today?
Yes, I just want to update you on the mural restoration program. We're moving forward with that. Right now, we're in the phase of waiting for recipients to submit their vendor forms. They do have a deadline of the end of this month to turn in all vendor forms. Otherwise, we will close their application. And this is to keep things moving forward instead of, running out of time and not having that funding at the end. The agreements are now in the legal office, and I should be receiving a draft soon, and then I would send that to the artists. This is the mural restoration program. That's to, restore the murals. And that's it.
Can I ask which murals are being restored?
I don't remember everything off the top of my head, but it's let's see. One is the baseball mural at El Salvador Park. Another one is also at El Salvador Park. It is a handball wall that the mural was covered up. So they're going to recreate the mural. The artist is going to recreate the mural that she had drawn decades ago. And then the mural at Friendship Park. And then the mural at the Santa Ana Science and Technology Center or something on French, and something I forget, but it has the Mars rover and all of that. And then the final one is, there's one more. Oh, the mural in the alley of 4th Street, the one with the Pelota gentleman and the orange groves and all of that.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to ask, so, I didn't have a chance earlier, the Saguayo mural, now that is approved now, when do we have any timeline or when that's gonna get started or anything like that?
I'm going to have to send out the agreement now, and let's see what the artists come up with as a timeline.
If there are no other questions, then we'll move into commission member comments. So does the commission have any comments they wish to share? Commission members, please note that no member may speak more than once until all have had an opportunity to speak. Also, the commission may limit our comments to 3 minutes each.
I'm gonna put a timer here and just make sure my. Yeah, I want to say congratulations and welcome to Commissioner Marlene Peña Marin. Peña Marin. Yeah, I'm gonna remember it by next one. I've known Commissioner for a long time, and it's just done amazing work with promoting ballet folklorico in our communities with OSHA and Relámpago del Cielo, and my wife's sister was taught by her, so it's just really awesome to just see you joining the fray, and we're just doing amazing work. So it's only going to get better with your leadership, as here on this dais. Yeah, I think it's great that that the Saguayo mural is moving forward. It's been a long time coming. Like was mentioned previously, it was not just. The Mayor Sarmiento, now supervisor, started the conversation around the Twin Cities. With that, we have a large community from Saguayo here, and so it's great to get that going so that we can, really be proud of that joint collaboration, that cross, border collaboration around the arts, and of course with the ad hocs, I intend to reach out to community members, and please, reach out and send, correspondence to the city, and reach out to us in whatever capacity to make sure that we form the right parameters for the event sponsorship. If there's things that are missing or lacking, I really want to, number one, empower artists in our city, the ones that live here, but also, as I mentioned before, ones that don't live here, that come here, and that are also welcome, to help beautify or promote the arts and the culture, because it's not just Mexicanos, it's not just Latinos, it's our Asian folks, it's our Black community, it's all everybody. We all create this beautiful fabric that makes Santana and Santaneros, Santaneras, Santaneres. So and lastly, just got a comment about political aspect of my final comments from the last meeting. So I just want to say that there was never any mention of any names specifically or any personal attacks. I have my personal beliefs and feelings about this and that, and things have been tense of late. But I cannot leave this dais without saying that a lot of times people say that art is art is art, and art is not, should stay apolitical, and it's not. Art is political, and our existence is political at times, and in this time especially. But I try as much as I can to be fair and to be, to treat this position with utmost respect, that it deserves. But we're going to agree to disagree at different times. But I think we've done a good job here of being able to move forward, and understanding and respecting our diverse community here in Santana. So, but I'm honored to serve on this commission and continue to be with my colleagues here. So looking forward to the work ahead. So lastly, there's going to be a fundraiser for Orange County Rapid Response at La Santa next Thursday, 7 p.m. Doors open, $20 donation. So speaking of art and resistance, it's a great opportunity for people to enjoy good music and raise funds for a great organization. Thank you.
I also want to welcome Commissioner Peña-Marin to this commission. We're very happy to have you here, and I'm happy to see the commission once again reach 6, and I hope we will get a 7th once more, so that we can actually have a full commission with as many people as possible to contribute to all the amazing initiatives that we're starting to embark upon. I think this is a really exciting new chapter of this commission to finally have funds, and I think that one of our challenges next is to make sure that the way that we are issuing the funds, administering the funds is as sustainable as possible. With new funding comes a lot of new responsibilities and a lot of new work that has to be done on the back end. And I know that the office itself does need to grow in order for our work to continue to have a spreading impact. And I will be discussing with TRAM how to I guess, discuss with you all more officially soon how we can actually advocate for the office and the staff to grow for this. And most of all, I'm just very, very excited to see that our commission has been very clear. There's been no dissent whatsoever about us wanting to affirm that migrants, immigrants, are all a part of our communities here, and we need to work with one another across all lines of difference, across all boundaries, in order to make sure that we develop and continue to foster a community that is safe for everyone here. And so I appreciate all of you. And with that, I wish you all a good night. This meeting is officially adjourned. The next regular meeting is scheduled for Thursday, August